What's up guys, Peepo here, and today's video is going to be about this. The not so new, but still pretty unwell known Sting7 by Tribe7 lacrosse. And man, just getting right into it as I always try to do. Very uncommon, as Tribe7 always tends to be, a very uncommon concept for head design, although at the same time I would have to say it's probably one of the more well-constructed unorthodox heads that are out there. And there's been some unorthodox heads over the last decade or so, maybe more. I would say the last 15 years maybe, especially if you look at some of the stuff from like STX before 2009. Some of their head concepts were a little out there. There was one or two Warrior Brine heads that were slightly awkward that nobody really seems to remember and whatnot. I think the STX one was like the Curve or the Swerve or something like that. Anyway, very out there sort of design. So getting right with that, I mean, your average head will have pretty much a swooping sidewall, much like this compressor here. I mean, two totally different companies, but if you compare the way the offsets and the sidewall designs are, I mean, that's the biggest thing that most people are kind of thrown for a loop, is the fact that the return of the sidewall to the back sidewall to the front sidewall is rather dramatic and early. And that's actually part of the design as far as a smaller pocket area, so that there's more positive control and pretty much a faster release. So what a lot of people don't seem to think or know is that a faster shot can sometimes mean that you need to have a quicker release. So that means the ball comes out sooner out of the stick, which is more or less how, if you really pay attention to a lot of high school and college attackmen, their pockets aren't huge swooping bags most of the time. They're very short, very compressed. A lot of the star attackmen have their shooters as low as they can go, so that the ball travels faster, is released out of the stick quicker, because they're doing more quick stick stuff. They're not doing full extension unless they're doing a shot, like a full-on crank shot from outside. But most of the time, it's going to be a nice quick release. And I feel this head kind of contemplates that and complements that. And I mean, I wouldn't probably recommend it for attackmen unless this is your cup of tea. I believe it's more focused towards the midfielder, but at the same time, it very much caters towards face-off guys, face-off fogos, whatever you want to say. Simply because of the fact that when you come to face-offs, large majority of the time the ball is going to be in this bottom section, closer to the throat. So the ball is going to be compact and there. Whereas most of the time you won't see too many people having the ball up here for face-offs. So the sidewalls being up there isn't not commonly being up there like most heads. With it not being up there, it doesn't really cause an issue. Doesn't really stop the ball from functioning or anything. As you can see, if you string it up any number of ways, if you're a regular mesh guy, whereas Tribe7 does kind of your off the wall or another uncommon sort of stringing styles, like their high ball pocket and so on. If you want to do a full pocket like this, you can. I'll include at the end a picture of the sidewall so that you guys can see kind of what I did, and you can figure it out from there. But so with that concept going for the face-offs, a lot of the plastic's down closer to the throat. There's a lot of reinforcement, but at the same time, Tribe7 heads have always kind of been built to bend before they'll break, especially the Ghost and the Scepter. But again, that concept kind of still stays true with this one, even though this head is extremely stiff. Not as stiff as their Savage or Optimus 7 heads, but definitely much stiffer. It's stiffer than the Beast, it's stiffer than the Scepter, it's stiffer than the Ghost for sure. It's definitely one of their stiffer heads. And at the same time, I mean, let's just go through some of these concepts before I start really rambling on about practically nothing. So, kind of already talked about the sidewall, how it's kind of compressed down into the lower 2/3 of the head, and the return of the sidewall is very short and creates this very elongated flat scoop that they actually advertise about that helps you with ground balls. It has a nice little curve here. It's not just sharp or anything like that. It has a rather concave sort of scoop. It has these ridges to help guide the scoop into the ball, as well as slightly protect the top strings. The top string holes, I mean, your holes in general on this head are all oval shaped, except for these two outer ones that I ended up using to string the top string. These two outer ones are slightly different shaped, but otherwise all the holes on this head are an oval shape. And you can't, unless you really force it, you can't really do a double wraparound anywhere like some people would want. So you have to kind of do just a single wrap for a top string or a sidewall. So not overly huge sidewall holes. I don't have a complaint about that or anything. The holes are definitely big enough for your average size leathers. If you wanted to put a traditional in this head, although unless I were to string one with a traditional, I honestly don't know quite how this head would take a traditional in comparison to mesh. Moving from the scoop area, which very interesting because of how the sidewall returns to the front rail like that. It creates a decent amount of tension, a very controlled but almost elongated channel. I tried to have this pocket be a little bit higher, but it was illegal no matter what I was doing. And plus, if the ball's up higher in the stick, you have a smaller sidewall hole area, so you can create an illegal stick closer to the top of the head. But I mean, if you want to try and put a higher pocket, you can. I feel that the throat is a very solid construction. There's no real holes to put any string or leathers through anywhere, so very sturdy throat. They kind of did away with the whole hollow front of the head where the throat is, because there was a lot of problems with the initial release of the Beast 7, and that caused the shaft to shift out of place and so on and so forth. So they learned from that with the original release of the B7, which they fixed the B7 and no longer does that. But they learned from that, filled in the front of the Sting, and then they included this power nub throat, which this caters more towards the face-off guys, because I don't have shaft, but if you have pink or whatever color you have for the your grip tape to ensure that your face-off stick's legal, you can put that tape all the way up to it, and you can for sure know that you're not going to go over the plastic, because this power nub gets you in the way of your hand. It also helps for if you're cradling, you know exactly where the end of the head is and so on. Very solid construction, very interesting that they would put that there. Not too many companies try to have a very prominent or robust throat design like this. So it's an interesting concept. Tribe7 stuck with a single screw hole. I'm not a huge fan of single screw holes. I prefer 2. They have 5 bottom string holes if it were to be compared to a regular head. I mean, that helps with their unconventional string jobs and so forth. I mean, it took a minute to really kind of get this pocket how I wanted it, and I mean, it throws really well. Faces off, I took a couple draws with it just to test it out and whatnot, just to see how it feels, and for being such a stiff head, I really liked it for face-offs. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, but if you really wanted to make it a face-off head, you could boil it a little bit, soften up the plastic, but at the same time, you could just leave it alone and face off with it and it'd be completely fine. But all in all, I think it's an interesting head. I mean, if you're a face-off guy, for $47.50, that's not too bad. If you end up liking this head, that you can get 2 of those for practically the same price as most face-off heads cost now. Like your Nas's and stuff before this Warrior price change stuff. I mean, most of your face-off heads would have cost over $70. So, I mean, for a face-off head that is pretty robust and it's a really decent plastic, you can dye it and so on. I mean, for $47.50, like I believe all of the Tribe7 heads are $47.50. For $47.50, you get 2 of these, you're set more or less for a season, and then I believe they have a year warranty, if not a lifetime warranty. Anyways, it's basically at least a year warranty for Tribe7 heads, and I mean, if you break both your heads during face-offs and so on, that's really good. You only paid $47.50. You're saving a decent amount of money. You're basically halving your budget. You're having you're splitting your budget in half when it comes to face-off heads if you get a Sting7. So, all in all, decent head, not too heavy. A lot of the weight's in the throat, so it puts it closer to your hand. All in all, interesting concept, and I definitely don't hate it, and I would pretty much recommend this for anybody that wants to give it a shot, especially you face-off guys, since you guys are always going through heads like crazy, so on and so forth. So, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you got a little bit of knowledge out of this. I didn't really go into anything over the top about it. It's just, all in all, for the concept that it is a very decent head. I do not hate it. And yeah, just took a minute to get used to stringing. So, thanks for watching, guys. I will catch you later. This is the Sting7 from Tribe7. Go check one out.